In 1882, an Australia win in England marked the death of English cricket, and the Ashes were born. Since then, the clashes between England and Australia have been more than just a game and more than just a series. It's the Ashes, and there is nothing better. The richest of histories of around 140 years. No cricketing rivalry comes closer to this. The Ashes are set to commence from Wednesday as two highly competitive units in England and Australia try to find their mojo in the longest format of the game. Hello and welcome to News 9. I am Shubhayan Chakravarti, and to preview the Ashes, joining me is Nikhil Narayan. Nikhil, this series is the pinnacle of cricket, the pinnacle of Test cricket. It doesn't get better than this, it doesn't get bigger than this. What are you expecting from the Ashes this time around?
This is, as you rightly said, the biggest rivalry, the most historic rivalry in the history of Test cricket. 139 years old rivalry. A rivalry which Australia has the upper hand in. They have won more Tests than England, but a rivalry which has seen almost an equal number of victories in as far as series are concerned, which is what matters, Shubhayan. It's 33 to Australia, 32 to England. So this is one of the most historic rivalries, one of the most highly anticipated rivalries, from body line to Botham's Ashes in 81 to the famous Edgbaston's Test in 2005 to what Ben Stokes did at Leeds in 2019 in the last Ashes. I mean, there's so many greats who have been born and so many greats who have ended their career with the Ashes. So this is it for cricket. This is the rivalry which sort of defines Test cricket.
Absolutely, Nikhil. Just for our viewers, why this Ashes is so significant in cricketing history, in cricketing rivalry. We all know that it is 140 years old. There's Ashes involved in it. But what's the significance behind this rivalry?
The significance behind this rivalry is that, I mean, both England and Australia, I mean, they can lose any other series, but they don't want to lose the Ashes, because the Ashes, the urn means everything to them, and there is a long history behind that urn. I mean, it's a which will take another show to explain, but that urn means a lot to England and to Australia, and therefore from Douglas Jardine to Don Bradman to Greg Chappell to Ian Chappell to Ian Botham, all sorts of strategies have been devised to win that urn. And therefore this series means a lot to both the teams.
Absolutely, and the hunger to win the Ashes can signify, we can sum up that with the bodyline series. This is how a team can go. This is the extent a team can go to win the Ashes, and that is what makes this rivalry so special. But Nikhil, this is the first Ashes in the COVID era. The last time it happened, it was in 2019, when the virus was still not there in our world. But this is the first Ashes in the COVID era. There were so many controversies. There were so many speculations around, the COVID restrictions, the strict COVID restrictions in Australia, and how the England players were, and how the England players were reluctant to go to Australia and face that severe COVID restrictions in the country. But now we have two almost full strength squads.
Absolutely. I mean, the backdrop of this Ashes has been very controversial. I mean, I did not expect two full-strength squads to play this Ashes. It's absolutely surprising. I mean, Australia is playing their number one squad, and England, except for Archer, has everyone in their lineup. So this is also Tim Paine's recognition before the series, all those racist slurs, all sorts of things have happened before this Ashes series. And it's absolutely fascinating that we have a full 5-test series, at maybe 4 different venues now, with the with Perth not hosting the 5th test. But the backdrop has been very interesting. Australia hasn't played a test series, since they played India. England, on the other hand, have played so many test series and so many matches since 2020 across formats that it's been a sort of an overload for them. So two teams coming from different backgrounds, but also two teams, Shubhayan, who coming from very similar numbers since 2018,
Yep.
which we'll
Yep.
discuss later in the show.
Absolutely, Nikhil. This is a 140-year-old rivalry, as you said earlier in the show. We'll not go back in 140 years and check out every series that has happened so far, but we'll slightly go down to 10, 11 years
Yeah.
and take a look at how the Ashes have turned out since 2010. So, what does the numbers tell there?
It is, Shubhain, since 2010, it's been a very close rivalry actually.
Yep.
England has won 3 series and Australia has won 2, as we can see,
Mhm.
and one has been drawn, the last one. Now, the interesting thing is that since 2010, only one team has won an away series, which was England in 2010-11 in
Yep.
Australia. So that has been the interesting part since 2010. But the more fascinating thing is that this Ashes is in Australia, and England doesn't have a great record in
Absolutely.
Australia since the turn of the millennium. They've just won one Ashes, that was in 2010-11 when Alistair Cook scored those 700
Yep.
plus runs. And they've hardly won, any test matches in Australia since in this 21-year period,
Yep.
which actually is very interesting and makes Australia the overwhelming favourites given the past record. But the strength of this current England squad, negates that balance and sort of adds balance to the contest.
Absolutely, and this will be a series of all news, the post-COVID era, the first Ashes of post-COVID era. But there's a significant change in the Kookaburra ball as well. There's a new plastic lining beneath the seam, the rudder of the ball, as the players say, and it will help the pacers. It will help to balance the game more. The pacers will definitely enjoy more seam, more swing of the offering. So what is the latest development there, Nikhil?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they have, this double lacquer on the
Yep.
ball and this,
It is similar to what the Duke's ball is.
And the Cricket Australia has asked for
Yep.
this because they apparently want more swing and seam to last for a longer time. They want the ball to be harder. I'm surprised, Shubhain. Why would Australia want that? Because that will.
Because I can give you a bit of an interesting
Okay.
take, but it will be a bit controversial as well. If we go back to Australia's tour of South Africa,
Right.
what was the reason behind the sandpaper incident? Because they wanted the ball to seam a bit. They wanted a more swing to that delivery to that leather ball, and that is why I think they have made this decision to assess their high quality pace attack, which consists of Hazelwood, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc. Obviously they had the likes of Peter Siddle in the past as well, so just to give that balance, a bit more balance, so that and we know that the Kookaburra ball softens up after 30 overs, and
Correct.
after that it is an easy road for all the batters, just to bring a bit of balance, Nikhil.
Yeah, you're right, and fair enough. But it also then gets bowlers like James Anderson into play, Stuart Broad into play, who otherwise, which we'll discuss later in
Yeah.
the show, have a terrible record in Australia. And if it starts swinging and seaming, then James Anderson, the highest wicket taker,
Absolutely.
then he comes into play. So, it can work both ways.
Absolutely. The first match will be played in the Gabba, and the last time Australia played in the Gabba, we all know what happened. It was a Rishabh Pant storm that took over the Gabba. The fortress was breached, but when it comes to Ashes, Nikhil, it still remains a fortress for the Aussie team.
I mean, Australia's numbers, Shubhain, at the Gabba are still stunning.
Yep.
Yes, India breached the bastion, undoubtedly. But as far as Ashes rivalry is concerned, Australia overall has won 40 and
Yep.
lost 9 tests in Brisbane, all matches, not only Ashes. They have not lost an Ashes test since 1986
Yep.
at the Gabba, which, just imagine. They have the second best win-loss ratio for any ground in the world at the Gabba, which is a stunning record. So, there are some grounds which are favourites for their teams.
Yep.
Mohali is for this
India.
team India. There are many other all over the world. So this ground is, the bastion, the fortress for Australia, and it will not be easy to defeat them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move on to some of the players, some of the individuals in that Australian and England lineup. We all know that both the teams are terrific on the paper, but it will be a challenge for both of them, because the Ashes, it throws all the permutation combinations out of the window, and it is just the performance that matters. We will start with the greatest, arguably the greatest batter since dawn, or maybe the modern day dawn, Steve Smith. What a player he is. He will be back in
What a player.
whites again.
Yeah.
And you expect something similar to what he did in England last time around?
I mean, he has scored above 500 runs in his last 3 Ashes series, an average of 61.8, only second after the Dawn. I mean, 2,800 runs in 27 Ashes tests, average of 65.11, which is third highest only after Dawn and Herbert Sutcliffe. He has 11 Ashes hundreds, again third highest after Dawn and Jack Hobbs. I mean, these numbers are staggering. What he hit 774 runs in the last Ashes series. You know, it's the 5th highest for a single
that was
Ashes.
a comeback series after all the sledging
Sandpaper
around,
Gate, everything. I mean, this man, you know, this man is a legend. I mean, he is the new Mr. Cricket. You know, Michael Hussey got that tag. This man is Mr. Cricket. He just wants to go there and win the match for his team. And, you know, I fear, I mean, Steven Smith is going to be the batsman to watch out for. You know, he wants to perform in the Ashes as he's done in the last 3 Ashes. He knows the importance of the Ashes series. Australia is coming back into world cricket. This is a transformation period. They won the World T20. Now they want to dominate Test cricket, in which their record has been middling last few years. So they want to be that great Australian team of the 90s and 2000s. And Steven Smith knows that he has to lead from the front. You know, watch out for Steven Smith. Those numbers are staggering.
Absolutely. Steven Smith will remain one of the key players for Australia, but what about his understudy, Marnus Labuschagne, another star in the making, already has been the #1 ICC Test batter, and he will look to make a mark again in the Australian Whites.
Absolutely. You know, he's an average of 60 since his debut in October 2018, one of the highest impact batsmen in the world in Test cricket. He has 5 Test hundreds, Shubhayan, already in 18 matches. You know, he is the Mr. Consistent in the middle order, along with Steven Smith. I mean, he is basically, I mean, if Steven Smith is Tendulkar, he is Rahul Dravid. So as to, you know, to compare him to the 2 Indian greats. You know, he also has 200 at the Gabba already. You know, Marnus Labuschagne also loves to bat. If he gets in, you know, he doesn't throw away his wicket. He's one of those very gutsy, you know, Marnus Labuschagne will be, you know, along with Steven Smith. I think Steven Smith and Marnus Labuschagne and the partnership they have together, you know, that will be the partnership which will define this contest for Australia.
Absolutely, and I was telling you earlier in the day, it remains to be seen whether he comes up with his leg spin or will test his medium pace bowling, which he has been doing in the Sheffield Shield. So I think these 2 traits of having the ability to bowl crucial overs in the middle will add to Marnus's reputation in the Ashes as well. But what about the opener, David Warner, one of the stalwarts of Australian cricket, has been coming off with a bit of controversy. His IPL team has left him. He wasn't retained by Sunrisers Hyderabad. But when it comes to Ashes, the hunger to score runs increases David Warner's reputation as a batter.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happened with the IPL was forgotten with that fantastic performance in the World T20. So his confidence is high, Shubhayan. And again, his test numbers, you know, he's done well in Test cricket. He hasn't played much because Australia hasn't played much. He still has an average of 48 plus and a strike rate along with that 72. So he does for Australia what the great Virender Sehwag did for India. Very similar. Although Sehwag had a much higher strike rate in the 80s. But similar role Warner does. Scores big runs, top of the order at a high strike rate, demoralizes opposition bowlers. And if he scores, you know, a century, 150 plus, you know, the match is as good as over, because he also creates time for the bowlers to bowl out the opposition batsman twice. So, you know, David Warner has an excellent record again at the Gabba. He has, you know, average of 61 with 400s. The only thing with David Warner is that his overall record in the Ashes is not that good, Shubhayan. He's an average of under 40.
And that took a hit in the last series as well, last Ashes, where Stuart Broad made him his bunny.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is, David Warner therefore will be hungry because he knows the significance of the Ashes, and he is now tasted success with the World T20, and he would want to make an impact. And this is a big opportunity for Australia, you know, to win an Ashes series against England, and, you know, his impact at the top of the order will be crucial.
Absolutely, but let's move to his opponent, the captain of England, Joe Root, arguably the front runner for the Test Player of the Year this time around. He is the leading run scorer in this 2021 calendar year. But Nikhil, can he repeat the same against Australia in Australia? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, that's the thing. See, we all know his numbers this year, phenomenal. Currently, I would say he's the best Test batsman, better than
66
this year, and 2 double hundreds, 400s, highest run scorer this year. You know, he's been brilliant this year. But the thing is, that he still has no Test 100 in Australia, no Test 100 in Australia in as many as 17 innings. For a player of Joe Root's class and caliber, Shubhayan, that is, slightly underachieved. Yeah. So he needs. Joe Root knows that his captaincy will be defined by whether not only he scores in Australia or not,
whether he manages to marshal his troop around
and wins the series or not.
Absolutely.
Last time round he was the captain.
Yep.
And
he is the only English captain in over 100 years to tour Australia for the Ashes as a captain twice.
Absolutely. And therefore this time around he will want to change the series result. It's not going to be easy, but that will be at the top of his mind more than scoring runs in Australia. Of course, if he scores runs, it becomes easier for his side. But Joe Root is a run machine, but he needs to score in Australia. I'm banking him this time to score big because he's just too classy a batsman not to score runs.
I'm fascinated to look out for the battle between Joe Root and Nathan Lyon in Australia. It is going to be mouth-watering contest. But another England player who is making his return to this squad, Nikhil, is Ben Stokes, one of the finest all-rounders across formats. The last time he took Australia apart on English soil, and he makes a return after a break due to mental health issues. So what are you expecting from Stokes?
He'll be rejuvenated, I think. I think he'll be rejuvenated, very hungry because he's been out of the game.
And he wants to do it for his father. He has already said that.
Absolutely. And he is by far the finest all-rounder in the world today, at least in Test cricket. His 135 unbeaten at Leeds, in 2019 is regarded, probably one of the greatest Test innings of all time. He has 10 Test hundreds, 160 odd Test wickets. Ben Stokes is just a class act, and Ben Stokes is the X factor in this England lineup. He can produce that Leeds in one Leeds type of knock in this series, and everything changes. So he is that player. He is their Flintoff, he is their Botham. Now it is Stokes. So Ben Stokes will be very, very crucial in the middle order with his bat and also with his bowling.
With his bowling, absolutely. And when things get tougher for the England team, it is always Ben Stokes who stands for them. But Nikhil, when it comes to the first Test in Ashes, one of the biggest development that has happened so far is that James Anderson will miss the first Test at the Gabba due to calf strain. What I am hearing. They want to manage his workload. The last time he played with an injury, he had to pull out after a couple of overs. So I think England doesn't want to take any risk.
Which is fair enough. See, Anderson is not very
in his
young.
Prime,
I think he's expressed a desire. There's an understanding that he wants to play 3 out of the 5 tests. Now, given that, also his record at the Gabba is not. It's in 4 tests. He's averaging somewhere in the 70s. So, and his record in the Adelaide is excellent, which is going to be a day and night test. So I think they want to reserve him for the day and night test at Adelaide and rest him for Gabba, and maybe that makes sense. Although to get your best bowler in the first match of the series, that's also a thought. But I think they have done a calculation and they want to rest him for the Gabba. Anderson, doesn't have a great record in Australia, and that is, he played a significant part though in the 2-10-11 series victory. He was the highest wicket taker of the series, but he didn't give any, what do you call, running the opposition out sort of performance. So he would want to improve that. His bowling average and strike rate, his strike rate actually in Australia is in the 70s. Also Broad is not, also along with Broad, so it's not that good. And it's not a surprise, Shubhayan, because he's a swing and seam bowler, and Australia, the bowlers who do well in Australia bowl back of a length.
So the likes of Ollie Robinson, who can provide the same this time around.
Absolutely. So, but Anderson, he's as he's shown in the subcontinent, he's a shrewd customer, and he wants to sort of he has many variations, and he'll discover something and produce something new in Australia in order to be successful.
Absolutely, and that is where the experience comes into the play. Maybe possibly his last Ashes tour of Australia. So he would want to make the best of impacts with the ball. But what about Pat Cummins, the new Australian captain with a clean slate, coming to wash another dark spot from the Australian cricket? Can he replicate what other captains, the likes of Steve Smith, has done in past, the likes of Steve Waugh, Michael Clarke has done in past?
He has what a legacy to carry forward. He becomes since 1956, right, the first Australian pacer to be captain. See, he is by far the best fast bowler in the world. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Look at his bowling average. It is the 7th best in the history of Test cricket for a pacer. legends he is, being compared with. Also, he's already taken 164 wickets in 34 tests. So, excellent average, excellent bowling strike rate, and just, that beautiful action.
Oh.
He has the ability to do well in Australia, which he has England, South Africa, everywhere. I expect Cummins to raise his game actually after becoming captain, to become even better and produce one or two absolutely memorable performances. So watch out, England.
And Nikhil, before we wrap up, just one battle, one key battle which you think has the ability to define this entire series.
I think captain versus captain,
Oh.
Joe Root versus Pat Cummins, and I say that because Joe Root is in the form of his life. Pat Cummins, the best test bowler in the world. Also, in 10 test matches, Cummins has got him out 7 times.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a very interesting battle. Cummins has the upper hand historically, but Root is in the form of his life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nikhil. It was a super chat once again. We will continue to give you all the coverage when it comes to Ashes and other sporting event. But that's it for this special on Ashes. Do let us know which team you are backing to win the coveted earn back. For detailed coverage on all the sporting action from all around the world, tune in to news9live.com. And for more such videos and analysis, like, share and subscribe to News9.